Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishnah Yomi Masechet Sota. We are up to Perek Tet Mishnah Chet. Today's Mishnah should be Le'ilui Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Ranbai V'Eliyahu ben Burcha Israel of Chana ben Miriam Sason ben Raya and Yehoshua ben Shifra Menuchatam Began Eden Amen and Le'avdi ben Chaim L'Chaim V'Derefua Shelemav Daniel Shalom ben Rosa B'toch Shah Cholei Israel. The previous Mishnah stated that the ritual of the Eglah Rufa is carried out only if we do not know who committed the murder. It is derived from the Torah that the murderer's identity must be completely unknown. If he is identified by a single witness or even by a person who is usually unqualified to be a witness, the ritual is not performed. The Torah usually requires a minimum of 2 qualified witnesses, but it makes an exception here and suffices with 1 unqualified witness. However, a single witness who knows the murderer's identity can only remove the obligation to perform the ritual of the Eglah Rufa. His testimony is not enough for the murderer to be executed. For the death penalty, 2 qualified witnesses are needed. This Mishnah discusses the law where witnesses give conflicting testimonies. The Mishnah begins, Ed echad omer raiti et haoreg. If one witness says, I saw the murderer commit the crime and I can identify him, Ved echad omer lo raita, and one witness says, you did not see him. The second witness says, I was with you at the time you claim to have seen the murder, and I can testify that you did not see it. Isha omeret raiti v'isha omeret lo rait. Or if a woman or any other unqualified witness says, I saw the murderer, and another woman says, you did not see him, hayu olfin, they would decapitate a calf, meaning the ritual of the Eglah Rufa must be performed. The testimony of the witness who can identify the murderer is cancelled out by the testimony of the opposing witness, so the matter remains as it was originally. The murderer is unknown. The Mishnah's case is where the witnesses came before the court together, for only then does the testimony of one witness cancel out the testimony of the other. If, however, one witness said that he saw the murderer, and based on his testimony the court ruled that the Eglah Rufa is not brought, it is then too late for another witness to refute his testimony. Since the Torah believes this one witness, despite the fact that 2 witnesses are usually required, we say that once his testimony is accepted, it is as strong as the testimony of 2. His testimony, therefore, cannot be negated by the single opposing witness, who has no more power than usual. In the following cases, a single witness is contradicted by 2 witnesses. If one witness says, I saw the murderer, and 2 witnesses say you did not see him, hayu ofrin, they would decapitate a calf. Since the single witness is contradicted by 2 witnesses, his testimony is rejected. The killer's identity, therefore, stays unknown. Even if the 2 witnesses testify after the court made a decision based on the testimony of the first witness, the court accepts their testimony, as the Gemara Sotah says on page 47b. Although the testimony of the single witness is treated as though it were given by 2 witnesses, like we just explained, it is weaker than the testimony of 2 actual witnesses. If 2 witnesses say we saw the murderer, one says you did not see him, lo yorfin, they would not decapitate a calf. The testimony of the 2 witnesses who identified the murderer is stronger than the testimony of the single witness who contradicts them. Now the Mishnah's last 2 rulings deal entirely with unqualified witnesses, as the Rav explains. The first ruling teaches that we follow the majority of unqualified witnesses if their testimony leads to a stringency that the Eglah Rufa must be brought. And the second ruling adds that we follow the majority even if it leads to a leniency, namely that the Eglah Rufa is not brought. This is how the Gemara explains the Mishnah, page 47b in Masechet Sotah. Now, when 2 groups of unqualified witnesses contradict each other, the rule is that we always follow the majority, regardless of whether 2 testify against 1 or 100 testify against 99. With respect to qualified witnesses, however, the rule is different. 2 qualified witnesses, the minimum required in most cases, have the same power as any larger number of qualified witnesses. What we say, 100 kitre utre kimea, 100 are like 2 and 2 are like 100. So even if just 2 qualified witnesses testify against 100 qualified witnesses or more, the court does not follow the majority. Rather, it treats the 2 sides as equal. And that is then of Mishnah Chet. Now, at a certain point in history, the Eglah Rufa ritual was abolished. Mishnah Tet discusses this point. The Mishnah begins, Misherabu harotzchanin batla Eglah Rufa. When the number of murderers increased, the ritual of the Eglah Rufa was discontinued. During this period, there were several known murderers who killed many people. When the body of a murder victim was found, it was assumed that one of those killers was responsible. Therefore, the ritual of the Eglah Rufa, which is performed only when the murderer is unknown, was stopped. Although they did not know which of these murderers killed the person whose body was found, the case was no longer one of complete uncertainty, and therefore did not fulfill the Torah's condition of it was not known who struck him. Misheba Eliezer ben Dinai, this is the period when the murderer Eliezer ben Dinai appeared. Utchina ben Prisha Yanikra, he was also called Tchina ben Prisha, for he changed his name to hide his identity. Chazru Likroto ben Aratzchan, in order to make his nature known, they began calling him the murderous one, as the Maharsha explains. Now, at another point in time, the Sotah ritual was abolished. Misherabu hamna'afim pasku amayim marim. When the number of adulterers increased, the ritual of the bitter water of the Sotah was ended. The Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai ifsikan. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai ended it. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai lived during the destruction of the second temple. Shenemar lo ifkod al benotechem ki tiznena v'an kenotechem ki tenaafna ki hem v'gomer. Because it is written in Hosea chapter 4 verse 14, I will not examine your daughters when they commit harlotry, or your daughters-in-law when they commit adultery, for the men consort with harlots, etc. Now this verse is interpreted here to mean, I will not examine your wife with the bitter water when she is a sotah, because your daughters and daughters-in-law are promiscuous and men go with harlots. When immoral behavior is common, as described in the verse, there are strong grounds for suspecting the husband of a sotah committed the sin, that the husband of a sotah committed the sin of cohabiting with her, which makes the bitter waters powerless, like it says in chapter 1, Mishnah 3. So for this reason, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai decreed that the Sotah ritual should no longer be performed. And the Mishnah mentions another decline in Jewish life. Mishemed Yossi ben Yoezer, ish Tzeradav, Yossi ben Yochanan, ish Yerushalayim. When Yossi ben Yoezer, the leader of Tzeradah, and Yossi ben Yehuda, the leader of Jerusalem, died, these were two of the earliest Tanaim. They're mentioned in Avot, chapter 1, Mishnah 4. Batlu ha'eshkolot, the Eshkolot, scholars who knew the entire Torah ceased. Eshkolot literally means clusters, but it is interpreted as though it were a contraction of the words Isha Kol Bo, a man in whom there is everything. This refers to exceptional scholars whose complete Torah knowledge left no room for doubt or dispute. Until the era of these two sages, the Torah was transmitted from generation to generation exactly as it had been received at Sinai. Therefore, there was never a disagreement about the law. The first dispute was between Rabbi Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yehuda, which is recorded in Chagiga chapter 2, Mishnah 2. This took place near the end of Yossi ben Yoezer's life. Shenamar en eshkol echol bikura ivita nafshi. The word eshkol refers to a person whom God considers precious, as it is written in Micha chapter 7 verses 1 through 2. There is no eshkol, literally cluster, to eat. My soul desires the first ripe fig. The devout one has disappeared from the land, and one upright among men is no more. And that is the Nabotai of today's Mishnah Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.